Hello members of BMES, I'm Noah, and today I'm just strolling the halls of ECEB in order to talk to you about soldering. So in today's video we'll be showing you how to solder two wires together as well as how to hardwire resistors into a prototype board, also known as a perf board. What is soldering, you ask? Well, soldering is the process of joining two pieces of metal together with another metal alloy called solder. Soldering has many applications. Hardwire circuits, join two pieces of wire together, anything you please, you can do with the solder. So, the tools you're going to need for this project are a soldering iron, a damp sponge or a brass sponge, the solder itself, and for the first project we're going to be soldering two wires together, so you're going to need those. Some wire strippers, optionally some helping hands to help support the thing you're soldering together. For the second project I'm going to be soldering a resistor to a perf board, so you're going to need some resistors and a perf board. And to make everything look cleaner at the end, you're going to want some wire cutters. The first thing you want to do is turn the solder on. It takes a few minutes to warm up. Next you want to wipe off any excess solder on a damp sponge. This prevents any accumulation over time, as well as allows the solder to better transfer heat. The next thing you're going to want to do is something called tinning, which is a process in which you heat up some solder on the tip of the iron, and then afterwards you remove it, leaving only a thin layer. This process not only prolongs the life of the tip, but enhances the heat transferring ability of the soldering iron. So be sure to get all the excess off there, and then as you can see, there's only a thin layer remaining. Here is a close-up view of some wire strippers. As you can see, there are numbers running along each side of the wire stripper, indicating the gauge of the wire. 10, the smallest number, is the largest gauge. 26, the biggest number, has the smallest gauge. In order to solder these wires together, we are going to need to strip the coating off of the wire to expose more of the metal beneath. So I know that these wires are 24 gauge, so although you can't see it, you can trust me, it's at 24 gauge, and I'm going to clamp down and then just gently pull. And I'll be doing the same thing on the next wire in case you missed it. So make sure to get it into the 24th gauge, or whatever gauge your wires are. Clamp down and gently pull. This is a close-up of two wires with varying lengths of coating stripped off from them. You're going to want to go for the one on the right because it will be easier to intertwine the wires before soldering. Now I will intermingle the wires together. In order to intertwine the wires, you will just wrap one of them around the other until you get the finished product that you desire. It should look something like this. After you have a thin layer of solder on the soldering iron, you want to touch the soldering iron to the bottom of the wires and the solder itself to the top. You don't ever want to touch solder directly to the iron because it will create poor connections, and this method will create the best seal. So as you can see, it's sort of dripping over the wires as I do this. And now I'm going to go back and put another layer on over the top, another layer of solder, just to ensure the seal is good. And you never want to have any globules form, so as you can see, when I got that there, I attempted to remove most of it at the end. You can now see this fine soldering job up close. When you're checking your connection, you want to make sure there's no accumulation of solder, nor any gaps. This is the perf board we will be soldering the resistor to, and this is the resistor we will be soldering to it. Perf boards are similar to breadboards in that you need to keep a single component in a single row. So as you can see, that's what I'm doing with the resistor, and you also want to keep the resistor flush to the perf board. So I will flip it over and pull each side of the resistor into a V to help secure it. Now let's give you a better view of that V on the back of the perf board, and as you can see, this will help keep resistor flat against the perf board. So as before, you want to pre-tin your solder so that it will be easier to transfer heat. And once you've done that, same method, you touch one side of the wire with the soldering iron, one side of the resistor with the soldering iron, and the other side with the solder itself. And you'll know you've made a good connection when you see a little peak on the solder. Well, when you see a little peak of solder on the perf board. For the other side of this resistor, I've decided to use the helping hands to make it a little easier on myself and give you a better view of what's going on. So same method as before, but this time at the end you can see the solder forms a little peak on the back of the perf board. Here is a close-up view of the back and front of the perf board. You can see those peaks that I was talking about. And now I'm going to trim the wires so it looks a bit cleaner. So here I'm clipping the first wire, and then with a little help from my cameraman, I will be able to clip the second wire as well to clean up our soldering job. Now remember, before you put the solder away, to tin it again for the next person.
Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this video about soldering. If you have any questions or comments, let me know down below. And until next time, I'll see you.